Okay, welcome everyone. This is our last in the second series, which I am calling our fall series. And we shared and we inspired. I am so proud of everything that went on. So I say, and I don't know if all of you are ready or not, but let's celebrate. I have my mimosa. I asked everybody to bring their favorite mimosa.
Never too early.
Well, for early for some, late for others, but this is a brunch kind of thing. So it's brunch time here in the US, or here in Phoenix anyway.
Yeah,
So anyway, I'm going to take a sip.
Those of us who have to hop on the freeway after the call,
This series has been both for existing authors and aspiring authors. And it's the first in series for 2021. And towards the end of this hour, we'll talk about a possibility for 2022, but we need input in order to move forward with that. It wouldn't have been possible without everyone's participation and involvement. And I want to especially thank my co-leadership team this round, which is Lanie, and which is Dwaine, and which is Doug. Without your ideas, support, and involvement, this would not have been possible. I sent a note to everyone yesterday that I have now the entire series on my website, and the summer series is there now. The fall series, this series will be there by the end of the week. And it takes you directly to the Global Chamber YouTube channel so that you can continue to share the knowledge that all of us have gained with other people. So at this time, I'm going to turn the baton over to Doug for his comments, and then over to Lanie to start the best takeaway that we've had this season. Doug.
I appreciate it, Gloria. And first of all, you get the greatest kudos. We've now had, this is the 16th program that we've had on book authors. We started with the series of 8, which are 7 different topics, and then I think it was a recap, right? Or maybe it started out as kind of a general, and we did 6 topics, and then we did a recap. And now this one has been an introductory session, 6 programs on things like, getting through writer's block, publish or self-publish, or use a publisher or self-publish, how to weave in your marketing, how to sell, really critically important information. And I was just pulling out my, how many pages? It looks like I've got about 8 pages of notes from this last series to work on the 2 books now that I'm working on. Cesar and I still have our original book that we'd like to publish in the first half of next year, self-publish based on what we learned this time. And then I came up with a second idea for a book, but I mean, ideas are cheap. They're easy to talk about. Just say that this has been inspirational, and it's also been very practical. And I love that. I love the fact that we've met some people along the way that know a lot about writing a book and getting it out. The 23 authors that were part of the first sessions were added to, right, Gloria? I think we've found at least 10, maybe 20, as many as 20. I see Lanie on the call today. I don't think he's necessarily been part of any of them, and he is a book author as well. And so I would guess we're somewhere around 50 book authors within Global Chamber that can participate in anything that we do down the road. So thank you all for being so informative and sharing your experience and your knowledge and expertise. Looking forward to hearing what your takeaways are today, and just thanks for the inspiration.
Thank you. And as I said, Lanie's going to take us into the best takeaways, and I'm going to ask Dwaine to share with you what we hope to do in 2022. So that's how we're going to roll out. Lanie.
Thank you, Gloria. First of all, I want to say personally thank you for getting this started. I remember when it was just an idea that you were talking about, and look what you've done, and brought such an amazing opportunity for all of us to share what we've done, what we know, but more to create this really special community. I feel so enriched by having met all these people, and I thank you for making that possible. When we started, we talked with authors about why they wrote their books. And one of the things that everybody talked about was a book as partly a calling card, as a part of marketing and extending your brand. But when I thought about it this morning, what struck me most was that everybody talked about, at the heart of what they did, wanting to share some knowledge that they had. Dale, I especially remember that in first talking to you, where you talked about what you wrote about is tax-related issues for between the US and Canada, a very special type of information. And yet what came through clearly to me was that you wanted to make it easy for people to find out information that they might not even know they needed, and to make it accessible and when they needed it. And I think that was a theme through all of our authors, whatever their topic was. Junko talking about financial transitions, and Professor Ansis with a book that guided us through our lives and through transitions and opportunities. Everybody at the heart of it wanted to share something that would be useful to the people who would read their books. And I think that is what made this such a special series for all of us and for all the people who listened and who will listen. And thank you, Doug, for recording it all so that we know that other people will be able to share what we heard over the months ahead. And with that, I would like to ask some of our authors to talk about what they found as a takeaway. And I'm going to go back to Dale to start that out, of what out of the series was the key takeaway for you.
Well, I don't know, there's so many things that, there was a lot of conversation, a lot of good ideas, a lot of outstanding people that presented during the however many weeks we've been doing this. But I think the thing that sticks in my mind is that, as you already mentioned, at the core, I think we're doing this and what we do as a career to help people. And writing a book is just an extension of that. Certainly you get some other benefits, as you mentioned, marketing and other things, but even extended marketing, that's a good thing from the perspective is that we get to help more people. And just yesterday, literally just yesterday, someone emailed me, contacted me saying they read my book, which, I wrote probably 7 or 8 years ago now. So it's still out there, people still benefiting from it and still making a valuable contribution to those people in need of that information. But I guess that the summarize is basically, the fact that we're all here to help people, and writing a book is just an extension of that.
Thanks, Dale. And I know that we learned a lot of very practical things as we went through the discussions with the authors. And Jacqueline, would you talk for a minute about your experience with this? And I know you made an impressive contribution several times as we went through the sessions.
Well, thank you for that, Lanie. I think what I got out of the program, clearly I've done 3 books and there's been a lot of experience that I love to share. But I agree that we're really here because we want to share our knowledge. That's why we write a book. There's no question, otherwise we can teach from a distance, but in a book, I think it's specific. So whatever I've added to the program, I'm really grateful for the invitation to participate in this first and foremost. And I definitely would like to see this continue. For me, what I took away was Gloria talking about book author pages. It was like, yeah, I didn't do a good job of that. So I need to go back and revisit that at some point, but there's too many other things going on right now. But that was a real takeaway for me. And of course, the trailer piece that we talked about last time, realizing that I had made a trailer many years ago and it was a pretty good one, but I haven't done anything on that. So I think these are the two things that I personally am taking away from all of this. And thank you, Lanie, for acknowledging, you know, I mean, for me, it's just simply the experience. You got to put it out there, you know, and if it helps other people, yeah, that's great. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacqueline.
And also thank you to Gloria, because without Gloria, none of this would have happened. And your organization of all of this has been phenomenal, and having Doug on board as well, it's been really tremendous. So grateful for all of you. Thanks.
Yep, I think we all echo that. Thank you. Well said. Alex, you've been part of this since the very first series. You were one of the first authors interviewed, and you were in the second part of the series. Do you want to share for a minute?
Well, thank you very much, Lanie, for giving me a chance to share my opinion. And of course, I have to thank again Gloria, pay homage and tribute to Gloria and Doug for facilitating this wonderful venue. You know, I tell you, there were some sessions I was unfortunately wasn't able to make because I had some issues that I need to take care of. But the ones that I attended, I enjoyed immensely. There was so much knowledge and of course, you know, inspiration, you know, in terms of just to follow up. What more can you do with your book, and what more can you do to reach the audience in a more effective way? And I thought the trailer was great. Jacqueline, I enjoyed your trailer. I watched it a couple of times, actually. Beautiful story. You know, and so there was just a lot of great nuggets, you know, that you know, there's always room for improvement, as you mentioned, Jacqueline, and so that's the agenda that I have. I enjoyed Junko and her perspective. I mean, that's amazing to champion, you know, this effort to move women forward in quotes, you know, given the challenges that they face. And it's important for us to stay aware and sensitive to the need to be more open and diverse and inclusive, if that's an interesting way to look at it. So I benefited tremendously. I enjoyed the series. I look forward to the next series, and hopefully I can be more engaged and active with the third time around.
Oh, Alex, you made a big impression every time you were there. It feels like you were with us all the way through, every bit of the way. And and we'll have more fun in the next iteration too.
Thank you.
And Professor Anses, you taught me how to get prepared to be the moderator of one of these sessions by your example, which has been beneficial to me, and I think to the people that have been on the panel with me. So thank you for that. And do you want to share a little bit about your experience with this?
Absolutely. First of all, I want to thank Doug, of course, and the Global Chamber, and my unsung hero, that is Cesar, who's behind the scenes and makes this all possible. And of course, I want to thank Gloria and Lanie, that were our original discussions many moons ago, and all the others, Alex and everybody else. What I learned is that, especially in our last meeting with Gloria ex parte, I learned there are different ways to market a book based on who we are and what we do. In fact, what was really interesting is Dana, Gloria, and I had 3 different strategies to get the book to market. And it was really interesting is that there's nothing wrong in a different strategy. But so that's what has been real clear to me. What is also clear to me, and I really want to acknowledge all of you guys, all of us, in the fact that it is not easy to write a book. It is certainly not easy then to proceed and market rather than leave it in your desktop drawer. But I want to acknowledge everyone for the willingness, the desire, the commitment we have to make a positive difference in the life of others. And that is really what my legacy book is about. We trained about 80, 90,000 people in about 30, 40 years in how to improve their own personal self-effectiveness. So, and I've really seen most elements in every one of us. And I really invite everyone here to continue contributing to others, because when we contribute to others, we really contribute to ourselves. So thank you again.
Thank you, Professor. And Junko, I'd like to ask you to share. You were one of the very first authors in the beginning session, and you have a very distinct specialization. So would you share a little bit about that and your experience as being part of this program?
Yeah. So I don't know how to answer because this is my first book. And, my goal was to get 1,000 good reviews at Amazon. But if you look at Amazon, I have only like 37 5-star reviews, so I realize it's just very hard. But my goal, ultimate goal is not really to sell my book, but it's to, to be known as the one of the best advisors helping the people in the financial transition. So that's my goal. So I don't feel like I'm doing a great job in that. And it's just like, it's just try and error and do it. But this community is really wonderful. I met such a great people, starting from Gloria and Lanie and the professor and of course Doug and all other people. So to me, I must be a very people person. So I enjoyed more of knowing each of you. And this group is very special. It's just something very warm about. I don't know, maybe because I'm in the South, in the South, I think people, I don't know, I shouldn't be judgmental, but people tend to put me in a Asian, foreign, women kind of category, but I don't feel it in this group. And that's what I really like about it. I'm sorry, I'm not really answering your question, but that's my feeling. Thank you.
Thank you, Junko. And you did answer the question. It's interesting that you set out with a goal of reviews on Amazon and ended up recognizing that it allowed you to reach people in a way so that they would know you were there, and that you are an award-winning financial advisor who also has a very special book, Women in Transitions. Do I remember that? Yeah. When money changes, life changes, and when life changes, money changes. I've always remembered that of what you said. So thank you for being here and for having always been here. And I'd like to take a minute with Kathy, who joined us and provided lots of very practical and interesting information for those of us who are authors. So Kathy, thank you. And how has your experience been with this program?
Well, this has been great, and I'm so honored and pleased to be a part of it. I want to thank Gloria and all the folks who made it possible. It's interesting. I just finished, I'm a book coach, and I just finished with a VIP weekend with one of my clients. She had worked with me before, but life got in the way of her book, as it often does. And her husband passed away. And so she needed to take a break from that. But she just spent 3 days with me. We were working feverishly on the book. And it's just amazing how hard it is. She said, I knew it was going to be a hard job writing this book. I know it was going to be a lot of hard work, but I had no idea just how hard it was going to be. And then what I think is also interesting is I just had a call from a client who said that the book was hard to write, but oh my gosh, the marketing part, that's where the real work begins. And so it's understanding that the writing of the book is often the sprint, but the marketing of the book is often the marathon. And it takes endurance and consistent putting your book out there, putting yourself out there. So I think those are really important elements. But I do believe that a book is the way that we as individuals can help change the world. And by sharing our thought leadership, by sharing our ideas, it is one way that we can make our voice be heard. And that is so significant and so important. I think I said on the call when I was being interviewed that I think books are magic. And the magic is that they have such power to influence, to inform, to inspire, to give hope, all of those things. So it's exciting to be with other authors on this journey, and really glad to be a part. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Wonderful words to share. It is a journey. And I think you touched two things, the writing of the book and the marketing of the book. And for those who couldn't be with us all the way through every week, I want to remind you that the YouTube video that's on the Chamber site will share all of our conversations around both those topics. How you came to write, whether people wrote with a computer or a pencil or dictated, and all the things from that moment all the way through how do you publish it, whether you go to a traditional publisher or you self-publish in one of the many ways that can be done. All those things were discussed and are available to everybody on the video. That's our legacy from the first two parts, right, Gloria? Before we head on to the next part. And I'm going to shift now to my colleague, Dwaine, and ask you to talk a little bit.
Excuse me, Lanie, I'm just going to interrupt just for a second. I don't know if we've had everyone share. Has everyone shared?
No, the authors have shared. I want to pick up Dwaine and come back to Vlad and to Todd, because Todd, I remember you from the very beginning. We haven't seen you often, but it seems to me that you were with us at the very beginning. So if you don't mind, I'm going to ask Dwaine to talk a little bit about his perspective, and then we'll come back before we finish.
Okay.
Okay. Listen very carefully to the takeaways. And one of the thoughts I'd like to add to that is that with the writing process, the reason it's so difficult is because it forces us to organize and clarify our thinking around the topic with which we want to help people. And it's the organizing and the clarifying that really is essential to getting the book written. And then so I just thought that was really, and then with that, we either add to, as a thought leader, a body of knowledge, or we even create our own little body of knowledge. And what happens with that is we think of ourselves as being creative in the process, which I think is accurate, but we become an ongoing student about this topic. We continue to learn and evolve and develop and refine. And I think that becomes a measure of our passion about this. And then the seeking of the marketing is to find more people with whom we can connect and be helpful. So I think this series has really done a terrific job of helping us put that in perspective with kind of where we need to go. And my last point on that is, and we all know that we can continue learning. And so being able to seek out, Kathy, for example, for marketing, we get inspiration here, motivation from one another to really continue this journey. So one of the reasons for thinking about continuing on with this in 2022 is to really continue to extend that capability. So in a sense, we now have our own little community here. And how do we begin to extend this community, extend each of these things that we're doing? And I think also begin to be very careful about how we do some of these sessions so that we can bring new people into this and do this in a way that we don't take them deep into our place of where we are with these books, but get them into this process so that we take, I'm going to call it sort of the 101 series versus the 202 class versus the 300 or 400 series. So I think as we do these sessions, metering out the beginning piece and the learning piece, I think that's going to be a really important part of it. And the general discussion at this point is around doing something in the spring, doing another 8-week course. And of course, we want input from every one of you on this process. We'll do that. And of course, the gatherer of our information is going to be Gloria. And then we'll put together small groups. We'll just do some ad hoc groups where we talk about particular topics, or we take some of your ideas and we're going to visit with you. And we'll have these sessions throughout so that we really develop an 8-week course that really is a follow-on to this, not just necessarily a repeat of this, but we'll use these 2 sessions that we've done as foundation for kind of how we go forward here. So that's the general thinking about what we're planning for next year. Anything to add to that, Gloria, Lanie?
I think it would be a great opportunity to build on what you said, Dwaine, to ask Vlad and Todd to talk a minute about what they'd like to see going forward, because they've touched this, but haven't been as deeply involved as we are. So maybe Todd, could you talk a little bit about what might interest you going forward and what brought you back here today?
Thanks, Lanie. I'm getting over laryngitis, so my voice is a little bit weird. You know, it's kind of funny. I guess everything is serendipitous, but I've always wanted to get involved, but for some reason it just seems like it slipped through the cracks every time. It's like after the fact, I'm like, oh wow, there was another one of those. And so it's, you know, I just feel like, okay, well, there was a reason for all of that, because that's my mindset, you know, that everything happens for a reason. Don't try and figure it out, just move with it. So then today I was like, yes, I'm actually going to be here. And I was expecting, you know, like more of a the regular show, and I didn't realize that today is actually sort of like, let's all come together and talk about what we just went through. So I'm glad to be here to hear everybody's comments. I mean, I've just finished a book and it's like only 125 pages, and it took me 4 years. You know, it's just like, give me a break, honestly. But I have no concept of anything except for, why was it so difficult? You know, it's like, why is it so hard to put things down and then read over it again and go, no, that's not explaining it clearly, and go back and rewrite it and reread it, and then finding an Upwork editor that I could afford and working with her. And, you know, she's, you know, so it's just like this whole experience. I had spoken with Dwaine about, you know, things over a year ago, and, you know, so it's just like editing, things like that. There's so much involved that I had no concept of. And then there's also this voice in the back of my head saying, nobody wants to read it. Nobody's going to read it. Nobody cares. You know, it's like, live your life, enjoy life, you know, just surf. So there's a lot going on. I'm sure that we all deal with different devils inside our minds, but those are the devils I deal with, is insecurity, you know, not good enough, stuff like that. And yet I still have this passion, like what Dwaine was talking about, for sharing my experiences living in China for 20 years, speaking fluent Mandarin, understanding 2 cultures and the vast differences between these cultures. And Doug knows very well that I'm very outspoken about this, because that outspokenness comes from my own personal experience. And that's, you know, I've had people say, oh, you're just brainwashed the way you think. if I was brainwashed, that wouldn't mean that I was educated in that language and in that culture and in their mindsets and in their history. That's not brainwash, that's reality. And so how to be able to express these things is really difficult. And I think that also just considering, it's like what Junko was talking about our culture, the culture of the South. I don't understand the South. Sadly, I've come to better understand the South over the past 5 years. But now I think that it's a serious realization that, wow, there's a really different cultural perspective going on down there. And it's like, what is the reality and what do we want to just sort of walk around or whitewash or, those are things that we, I guess, as individuals have to decide. But I've taken away some really good points from just listening to everybody talking today, the marketing piece, well, I hadn't thought about that yet. I'm just doing it on Amazon. I'm doing it as cheap as I can, publish a book on a shoestring. And so Amazon is giving me that opportunity. So that's basically where I'm going. I will be looking into Jacqueline's trailer, because I'm interested to know what that is. So I've already, my wheels are turning as what is a trailer? And so I'm going to be connecting with you, Jacqueline, on LinkedIn and try and find your trailer. So, but that's my 2 cents.
Well, Todd, I think it's wonderful. And I want to remind you that there are a bunch of us here who are all probably prospective buyers of your book and readers of your book and who'd be excited to support you. So you have to tell us when is it out on Amazon already?
No, it's not. Probably the first of the year. I decided it's so close to the end of the year that I'd rather have it, might as well make it look, like a car. It's a new car,
Okay.
Gotta have the new year. So I'm going to probably publish it in January 22.
Okay, so you have to make a commitment to all of us on this call and those of us who will listen to it months from now on YouTube to tell Gloria when it's out so she can tell all the rest of us and so we can support you, because that's part of what this group is about, is supporting each other and encouraging and sharing our knowledge. And you're going to have up-to-date information about how things worked on Amazon and the marketing that will be valuable to hear in the next go round. So
Yeah, and
thank you.
I want to say to Todd did send a copy of his manuscript to Michael Quigley for review. And Todd, he did send me an email this week that he's almost done with it and he loves it, absolutely loves it. And he wanted to know how I was doing with your manuscript. And, once the series is done, because I put so much time here, I promise I'm going to get it read and I'll have it to you first part of next week.
And if you want to send, if you want to send it on to me, I'd be happy to be a reader for you too. So
okay.
We're all with you. And now I'd like to turn to Vlad, who hasn't had a chance to say anything. So would you share with us what you're thinking about and what you might be interested in?
Of course, thank you, Lanie. But first of all, I want to thank Doug for inviting me to this. I've been part of the Global Chamber for quite a while on the international business side, specializing in China, just like Todd. So I was not aware of this book side of the Global Chamber, and having a conversation with Doug some months ago, he says, we have this, why don't you join? And I just got the chance today to join at the end of it. But I published my book, which is a historical fantasy fictional story about an old character that I'm sure all of you heard about, Vlad Dracula, but not Vlad Dracula the vampire that never existed, but Vlad Dracula, the actual king of a small country in Eastern Europe that was just fighting the Ottoman Empire for freedom. And basically he became a vampire 500 years later, because of Bram Stoker Dracula and the 20th century movies. So it is a historical fiction. It's a book that basically I owed to my kids, because it was a story that I was telling them since they are very young. That's how they're going to sleep every single night, with the story to be continued. So obviously when they grew up and says that we don't need to hear stories anymore to fall asleep, they you know, push me to, you know, put it to paper. And, you know, coming from the old country and, you know, putting to paper, that means writing it by hand with a pen and pencils, and write one big notebook after another and after another. But I realized that that's not going to work for the long term when it comes to publishing, and then went into putting it on my laptop later on with a program that I could dictate, and that creates mega mistakes on dictation. And then, you know, 15 years later, I finally finished it and published it on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. But now what I learned from the experience is that, especially as a first-time author publishing, I did many little things, but not a major book that's 500 pages, is that if you don't have the book in your hands and see it, you don't see the mistakes, really. And I realized after I bought the author's copies and gave it to family and friends, that the formatting is not as good as it should be. So I had to go back to the process of reformatting the book with proper margins, because the margins were too short. The text was coming too far to the end of the page, and spacing of paragraphs, and et cetera, et cetera. So I've done all that, and I just got the final copies now, and I'll upload it on both Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And for Todd's, you know, benefit, like he said, the easiest way, because if you have to change something, you change it, you just load it back on Amazon and Barnes and Noble instantaneously. You know, it's a new book. So versus going through a traditional book publisher that, you know, prints I don't know how many hundreds of copies, and then, well, you're stuck with them. So this is my experience in publishing and learning as you go on the publishing side. Marketing, it's a completely different story. Obviously, you can go through Amazon programs or Barnes and Noble programs or some independent people, but that's another story. Now, what I've learned from all of you, that yes, there is a lot to learn, and I regret for not knowing earlier. If I would have joined last year in the middle of the year or whenever, maybe I would have avoided some of the mistakes, but better late than never. So I'll learn from this point on. I cannot have mega input because I was not part of the discussions before, so I don't know what was, you know, what transpired, but I'll surely do that as we go forward. That's about it.
Thank you, Vlad. Thank you, Vlad. First of all, I'm in awe that you could write a book that's partly fiction. So that is extraordinary to me. I write nonfiction, so it's way above anything I could imagine. And you managed to capture so much of the whole series in telling us why you wrote the book, how you came to write the book, some of the issues with choosing when you choose to self-publish. So it's really extraordinary to hear your story. And I'm now going to turn this over back to Circle. We're going to circle back to Doug for a minute, who has some takeaways of his own to share. And he's been talking, for those of you who haven't been in all the sessions, one of the things he's mentioned several times is this book that's in his mind to write. So I think we're all going to keep an eye on when that book comes out. But for right now, Doug, do you want to share some of your thoughts about the series?
Well, I want to just mention about Lottie, and how impressive, he was able to do all of that. I agree with what you're saying. And the good news is that all of the discussions, Vladi, are on YouTube. So, and in fact, the other day, I think I started one and it just kind of went through all of them. I ended up going off and doing something else, and I came back and I was on like the fourth or fifth one and it cycled through. So we will post a blog with that link to all of them, and I think Gloria will put that on your site as well. There were a couple things I wanted to mention, and I one of the things that stuck in my head was Junko's 37 5-star reviews, which I wrote down as, for some reason, I put gold star reviews, which I think that's like gold star parent, right, or something like that in the military. But 5-star reviews, and now if we have 50 authors within Global Chamber, we should be able to get 50 of them at least, right? From now on. And so if nothing else happens, having gold 5-star reviews amongst us and developing a network here hopefully will help us all. And the other thing that occurred to me, what made me think of that, was Todd's book and your point on, let us know when it comes out. And maybe for all of these books, right, whenever they come out, that we all learn about them through this, and we all, post a 5-star review. Presuming, Todd's book deserves a 5-star review, which probably, is there a 6-star review? Is that possible? Probably. There were a couple other things that I wanted to mention, one of which, by the way, Lanie, I should have mentioned earlier. So you were one of the ones that really blew my mind yesterday when we were on Clubhouse and we were talking about mentoring for women in trade. And it was funny, Junko said the same thing, and we went through each person, and each woman basically got up on stage and said, I never really had a real woman mentor, which kind of oh my God, what a need. That is something. It took me personally 12 years to get a mentor, and that was almost like an accidental mentor, that helped me through some of the international stuff. But because of what we do, the international stuff and the book author, we need to do a better job of connecting and facilitating mentorship amongst the members. And so you have my promise to do that for women and men and book authors. I think that's a great idea. One of the Kathy's on the call, and one of the kinds of people that I've learned about is what Kathy does, and then also Everett. I don't know how many of you got Everett's stuff in the mail. So here's his business card and a card with a personal note on it, and he sent the book, and he's got inside the book a personal message about doing a complimentary session, and is that was impressive. Really, really thoughtful in how many books he's been through. That's certainly one of my takeaways. I just sent a note to Kathy to do the same thing if she'll allow me to speak with her, because I would like to start the year with a very clear plan to get the first book done in the second quarter. Then what else did I say? Oh, one of the other things I learned was the concept of pre-marketing. So as soon as we have our title, I think it might have been Everett who said this. He said, that you are the book author of the upcoming book, such and such and such, right? So as soon as you have your title, you can start to put that on your emails and put that on your website and things like that. And I thought that was a little bit of an out of the box, really good idea. And maybe a motivator, hopefully, to get it done, right? Is hey, I've been watching that upcoming book for the last 3 years. When you said upcoming, did you mean in our lifetime or what? Come on. So hopefully that is a motivator. And then I think that was it, except for one more thing that has impressed me about all of you, and that is just that just do it mentality, right? At the end of the day, Todd, you asked, why did it take you 4 years to do a 100+ page book? Life gets in the way, right? And, that's the real magic and mystery. My own personal frustration on a daily basis, because I have so much pleasure and so much joy in Global Chamber, but quite honestly, my frustration are the people that I deal with every single day that say they're too busy. They're too busy on this and too busy on that. And guess what? We're all too busy. It's like, you don't need to say that you're breathing. So why do you feel the need to say that you're busy? Because it's a bad excuse. And the fact that, Todd, it took you 4 years, the bottom line is you got it done. And all of you got it done. And now it's up to all of us, whatever we're doing, right, to get stuff done. Life is too damn short. And the fact that you all were able to get all of these done, Professor Hansis with the storytelling book, congratulations on that. Let's work together, support each other, and do whatever it takes to get more done in 2022. So thank you for the opportunity, Lanie. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Doug, very much. Vlad, are you waving at us, or is your hand raised in the traditional classroom? You're muted. We can't hear you. Oh, you're still muted. I don't know how to unmute you. Oh, I'm not the host. Okay, looks like he's having some tech.
Okay,
there you go.
okay, I'm
Perfect.
unmuted.
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, was there something you wanted to add?
No, not at this point. I was just replying to Alex on the text, and I got out of the.
I saw you moving your hand. I thought it was like when we were in school and raised our
No.
hand.
Was somebody in my office that just came in and said hi. That's it.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you. But Professor Hansis, I see your hand up. So please.
Thank you. I just, as we're getting close to the end today, my mind thinks marketing. And if this venture, if this journey we started together about a year ago would not be worthwhile, I wouldn't even be saying this. But it is worthwhile. All of us, each one of us, has a tremendous amount of contribution to make. And I just want to give you some numbers, which will be very interesting to Doug. There are literally 44,000 writers in the US. So, and just in Los Angeles, in the Writers Guild, there are 11,000 writers. Now, I can guarantee you that what we presented in this past year and what we'll be discussing and providing a support system in the next year is going to be of the greatest value. So my contribution to all of you guys and to the Global Chamber will be to work intelligently with the target to reach not 100, but about 10,000 writers in the US. And it is important, if you have a message of intelligence, a message of contribution. I really got touched by Junko. She's right. Everyone here is open to contributing for the purpose of contribution, not necessarily money. It's just we want to help because that's who we are. We come from our heart, and Doug is number one in this. So that's what my commitment is to the entire group. I will work with whoever wants to in terms of reaching out thousands of writers who may be lost in the US, because it's not a simple process. It is a difficult process. A lot of people get depressed, like Todd was sharing just a few minutes ago. Sometimes you don't get reward. Well, I really see this to be a continuous effort in the future with a very positive outcome. So 44,000 writers nationally. I believe I can get a database for that, and 11,000 in Los Angeles. The other thing is creating strategic alliances. Rather than go one by one, if we can find a group with another 100, 200, 300 writers who are lost or could be lost, maybe we want to open up the gate to our meetings.
Okay.
And I'd add to that, Professor, I think that's super exciting for all of us. But I think one of the things is to explore more in all the metros, all our 525 metros, is it, Doug, that we have now? That to find all those authors who don't know about us, who haven't heard about this yet, who might feel uncomfortable because maybe English isn't their first language, but we'll find some way to connect with them. Anyway, that's my volunteering.
Yeah, I want to add that I was at a Zoom, the Women's Networking Group, and I shared this, I think, with Doug, that some of our members have not been attending because they were under the impression this is strictly for authors. So somehow we have to get that aspiring author idea out there, or maybe they're not thinking of being an author, but maybe just having the information and just knowing about the process would be helpful. So I was surprised when I learned that. The other thing before Jacqueline, because I see her hands up, Theory has attended several of these sessions, and I don't know if he has a comment he'd like to make. Theory, are you there? Do you want to take a quick minute to offer your comments? What you gained? Oh, geez. Okay, I know you've attended some of these, but what was your number one best takeaway? Just real quick.
You made the point. I may one day write a book. Me, I'm mostly a reader. I'm mostly a proofreader. I'm a big reader of books. In fact, my office is surrounded by many types of books. So I'm more the reader that reads a lot of books. Contrary to many people who waste time on TV, cable TV, as our governor Spencer Cox said, stop wasting time on propaganda cable TV. Get out in nature. I'm in Utah, with the snow, the ski, the outdoor sport. And we have also a lot of writers in Utah. So I'm part of UDEN, Utah Digital Entrepreneur Network. This is the group of filmmakers. And you probably don't know that in Utah, we have not only a lot of writers in fantasy, and we have big groups of writers, fantasy, dragons, princess, books for children, Christmas, Father Christmas, Santa Claus, and because of all this influence on one side, and we have also science fiction. So all those guys write books, and filmmakers do films with this. And we have the Ironwood Studios, which is specialized in fantasy, science fiction films here in Utah. So I read a lot of books, like many people. I start my night reading books from business to fantasy. One day I may write a book about doing tourism in Utah. I'm working on a tourism agency.
Let us know.
So yes, I agree with you. Many people didn't follow this series because it's for authors. I do a lot of pictures. I will do some marketing for you on my Facebook. Basically, I read your books also. So everybody at the Global Chamber must know that have copies of your books.
Okay.
We should have a page with
I learn a lot.
Gloria. Thank you, Terry.
Yeah.
Gloria, we should have a page of all the books that are in so that we can maybe do links to all of these. And so I'll let me work with you, and we'll put a page up at Global Chamber, like a book author page, if everybody's okay with that.
Okay, that sounds great. And we've got Jacqueline with her hand up for a while here, so we're going to move over to Jacqueline.
So we're coming to the end of the session, and you're thinking about what's the next part. And I'm hearing a lot of the conversation today about, we're book authors, we've already established that, but there are people who are building books or writing books or thinking about writing books. So an idea that I'd like to just put there is Ask the Experts series as part of this. Because there's a lot of people who are not as informed, and I think it would be a great place for them to bring that, for us to bring that to them as a resource for creating the books you want to write.
Great suggestion.
Okay. And Todd, I think your hand is up. Real quick here, because we're coming to the end.
Okay, yeah, this is just a kind of following back up about all of the different writers that are in the US. And I just wanted to mention that I'm also a member of the Chinese Writing Association in the US. and have published in the Chinese language. So there's a lot of non-English language opportunities. And I think that I know that that's difficult, and it's something that I push for a lot, is to try and do more non-English programming in the Global Chamber. But that's also, it's very difficult because if you don't understand the languages, then you sort of maybe feel like you're losing control. But I think it's also very important that we do take that into consideration. I think we have representation of at least 4 or 5 different languages just right here other than English. So that's something that I think is also important.
Yeah, and as a suggestion to that, 15 seconds, Gloria, the United Nations system has a tremendous instant translation so that you can actually have many foreign speaking individuals being here. We are doing that internationally already. So there is a way to bring all together.
Thank you. And my takeaway, I just learned from absolutely every session, and having 4 books under my belt, I'm motivated to revisit those books, and obviously they need updating. But an interesting thing that happened to me at a social event recently is I ran across somebody who was going to write a networking book. His name is Austin Feldman. You might know that name in Phoenix market. He's a huge networker. And he wants to co-author one with me. So, you know, we're going to meet, we're going to talk about the possibilities. So those kinds of things are going to happen to you as a result of this. People are going to hear it, see it, or whatever, and think, oh, wait a minute, maybe I want to do something with you. We're coming to the close here. I want to thank everyone. And I'll put the last word, let Doug say the last word. But I just want to thank everyone for participating, because if you had not participated, this would not have happened.
Well, how about Jacqueline, is there, whoops. Sorry, badly timed call coming in. Jacqueline, do you have anything you'd like to say in closing? And then maybe Lanie should have the final word.
Okay, good.
The one thing I would say is let's keep it going. There's so much talent, there's so much expertise here, and people need to understand it. This is a complicated business of writing a book. As we've said, it takes a long time just to write the book, but more importantly, what do you do with it afterwards? And I think that's a really key piece for next year, to think about how we can help others do that. So thank you, Doug.
And be fearless through the whole process. Your knowledge is power, right? You know, and that's one of the greatest things I took away from all this, is understanding it reduces the fear and reduces the barrier. So thank you for being fearless every day, Jacqueline.
Yeah,
Lanie, you want to take us home?
Yeah, action removes fears.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think this takes us back to where we started, recognizing that we all have done this, the work we've done, the books we've published, and all the parts that that's taken us to, because we want to share and engage with people. And we want to continue sharing our knowledge and take our knowledge and share it more broadly across all of the tribe that we are part of. So thank you, everybody, one more time for all that you've given to each of us. And we look forward to sharing some more next year as Gloria is coming up with ideas. It should be another wonderful adventure. So thank you, everybody. And thank you, Cesar, for making sure that we could be together. Even though you seldom join us, we wouldn't have these sessions without you. So let us end by saying thank you, Cesar. We really appreciate all that you do for each of us.
Absolutely.
And happy holidays, everybody.
My pleasure, everyone. Happy holiday. Thanks, Lanie.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks everybody. Thanks, Junko. You're amazing.